Oh man, when the forecast at all your favorite fishing spots looks a little something like this, it can be really hard to have the motivation to get up and go out. So, there's nothing more for us anglers to do than to put on our favorite fly fishing films and get prepped for the adventures to come. Now, one of my favorite ways to do this is by making pre-made leaders. And you may have heard me talk about these a little bit in some of my videos, but I'm gonna stop right now and do kind of a full review on how I make them and really why I carry them. So let's get into that real quick, but first I gotta grab all my materials, so I'll be right back. And just like that, we've got everything laid out in front of us, everything we could possibly need to build these pre-made leader setups. And before I get into the how of how to build these bad boys, I ought to justify why I even carry them, why I even bother. And I'm sure there's a lot of you fishy folk out there who can kind of relate to my situation, because I consider myself a weekend warrior style angler. I've got a very small window of days I could possibly go fishing in a given week, and within that small window you gotta have weather cooperating, and you know, there's life obligations that come up, and those are freaking annoying. But if I find myself on the water, if I'm lucky enough to be out there, I want to be as efficient as possible. Because you think about a given day on the water, there are so many changing variables. You think about the air temps, the water temps, you think about the cloud cover, the water clarity, everything that could possibly change the way the bugs are hatching, the way they're moving, what the trout are eating on, where the trout are sitting. I mean, there's so many variables, and it may not seem like it, but it can change so much in a given day. So I've found that these pre-made leaders, they make me so much more proactive rather than reactive, and they save me so much time when I'm out on the water. So with that being said, let's get into how to make them. And to kind of start this off, we need to talk leader material. I'm really not the biggest fan of store-bought leaders. That's why I carry a lot of different tippet sizes and different tippet material to make my own leaders. Now, we gotta talk tippet material real quick. And this is something that took me a while to understand, but there are two main types of tippet material. We have our mono and we have our fluoro. Mono floats. So if you're making a dry fly leader, or you want to make the first part of a nymph leader, this is your huckleberry. If you need something to sink, either the top section of a streamer rig or the bottom section of a nymph rig, you want to use fluoro. And again, I cannot overstate this. Mono floats, fluoro sinks. Big keys right there. So I like to have a bunch of different types depending on the situation, but what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna make the most basic style leader, that being a nymph setup. So to get that started, I'm gonna build a taper using blood knots and various degrees of heavier style tippet to build this leader. And to get this whole party started, we need to make the top section of our leader, the one that's going to be connecting to our fly line itself. And in order to do this, I like to make what's called a simple loop knot or an over the hand knot. It's a really streamlined, strong connection that's going to go right to your fly line. And let's be real, it's a lot easier to make than a nail knot or some of those other crazy knots they tie. Now that we've got the top section of our leader all figured out, what I'm going to do is just grab various sections of about 0x down to 3x mono and just make those connections. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be tying what's called a blood knot. Now, there are a ton of great videos out on the World Wide Web of how to tie one of these bad boys, but I've really come to love this knot for how streamlined, but also how strong it is. And another kind of benefit to it is that it really does a good job of feeding through your rod tips when you're trying to get a bunch of line out for, say, like a dry fly setup or what have you. But like I said, very streamlined, and it all cinches down super nice, and it makes for a really nice knot. And to finish out this leader, we're going to put away the mono and grab our fluorocarbon, because we want to make the last quarter of our heavy, deep nymphing setup. And to do this, I've chosen two flies, I would say two heavier flies, to make this sink and get down deep. And what I personally like to do is I like to make my connections via the hook shank. I know there's different philosophies on this, but I think with a simple fisherman's knot at the back end of that shank, it does a really good job of keeping your whole rig in line, so when you're casting, you don't have as many messes
and it ends up being a nice, strong connection when you do get that nice big boy on the line.
And just like that, we've made ourselves a beautiful 9-foot-ish tapered leader, mono down to fluoro with 2 flies on the bottom. This thing is, it is primed and ready to go. But we got to figure out a good way to store this for future use. And the way I like to do it usually is just through foam blocks. What I'll do is I'll cut them to shape to fit into my fly box like this. And yeah, it works out pretty well. So let's get to wrapping this bad boy up. And in no time flat, we've just made ourselves a beautiful tapered leader, got it all stored away, ready for future use, and I can't overstate how important this is. And the one you guys just saw, it's more on the simple side of the ones that I carry, but you can go as really complex as you want. I've got pretty gnarly streamer pre-made setups with a sink tip and a wire clip for quick use, and I've also got 3 separate looks as far as dry fly goes. I think Loon makes these pucks, but they're really awesome to store at longer leaders. So I've got, a medium range, short range, got even a long range, just depending on what the situation is and how the fish are acting and what the bugs are doing. And yeah, man, when you're out on the water, it's so important to be proactive rather than reactive and use your time as efficiently as possible to get as many fish as you possibly can. Or enjoy yourself as much as you can, I don't know. But folks, that is gonna be it. Comment down below, let me know what you guys think. Do you like this style of video? Do you like this fishy knowledge I'm dropping on you? I don't know, I kind of feel like a goon that, who would do this, but I would do this. Regardless, folks, I appreciate you sticking around, watching this video so much. You OG folks, you know who you are. You guys are the best, and yeah, wherever your adventures take you, I hope you keep your feet in the water. Hope you keep a couple of pre-made leaders so deep in your pockets. And until next time, tight lines.